This is the Fearless Experience with Brendan P. Keegan. Conversations with leaders who provide valuable, candid insights from their journeys and share their secrets to what made them successful and fearless.
Today's fearless leader is Adam Norris, founder and CEO of Pure Electric, one of the world's fastest growing e-scooter brands. Also, he's the visionary leader behind Horatio Investments, where he backed over 30 startups. So this is a guy that knows a lot about investing. He's a serial entrepreneur starting many companies. He also is known for masterminding Lando Norris, his son's career to superstardom, where he sits atop the F1 Drivers' Championship, 20% of the way into the 2025 season. So Adam, welcome to the Fearless Experience.
Thank you. Thank you.
I want to get to know you a little bit better. So let's go way back. Like, what were you like as a kid? What was little Adam like growing up?
I grew up on a farm and lived in the countryside. And some of the things I've sort of going back, you asked about Lando, but some of those things, and I bought a farm because I wanted that outdoor environment for him to grow up in. But I grew up and I had sort of no boundaries, that we had some land and could do whatever I wanted on that land. And sort of an explorer, inquisitive, a childhood always seems to be summer and having fun and messing around and just doing stuff. And even then, from my dad being on a farm, learning to weld, learning to do things, driving tractors at the age of 5.
Oh.
Yes, you just get to do lots of stuff that probably the normal person doesn't do. But that was a childhood full of pleasure, no pressures and no real ambition either, just enjoying life.
Oh, I think that's how, if you go back a few generations ago, I think that's kind of how it was. Now, in kind of doing some research for today, I also saw that, it was fun. It was, as you said, you were on the farm, you were driving tractors, you didn't have, there wasn't a set ambition, but you yourself had some challenges to overcome in school, with this dyslexia.
Yeah.
And just some challenges. Just, there's a lot of listeners out there that have their own challenges as they're raising kids going through school or as they're going through school. So, like, how did you overcome those?
And to be really honest, when people ask me about it, I just felt at that time I wasn't very good at school. And I was quite happy with that. And I think other people, my parents weren't very pushy. So there was no pressure for me. And I just accepted I was in the bottom class. There was 20 classes in the year and I was in the bottom class. And it didn't feel like a challenge. It just felt like I wasn't very good at academia. And probably with hindsight, the whole dyslexia has given me brilliant ability to see patterns and see things and do things other people haven't got. But maybe it wanted me to created a want to achieve because I felt like I was always last. And maybe that created something in me. And I went to a special school for dyslexics and for wealthy people. And being the poorest kid at a school with lots of wealthy people, I think also drove me to want wealth. In my early career and my ambition was something that wanted me to aspire to have more. But it didn't see, it's strange, we all see different things. I didn't see it as a setback. It's really weird because most people, I just was bad at it.
Well, I think growing up, we don't know what's good, bad. Like, we just kind of know what we have. We don't know various environmental factors around us. So you kind of said how this started to push you to want to excel. Can you talk to us about, like, one of the first times where you tasted victory, you had success, and what that meant to you, and did it propel you to further successes?
I think it did, and it was really at work. And it was the first thing where I felt, and of all things, my parents just wanted me to get a job because I hadn't done very well at school, any job. And I didn't ask how much I was going to get paid, and it was a commission-only job in sales. And it was relentless cold calling, and I think that the work ethic I got from my father being on a farm, I worked Saturdays, I worked Sundays, did me good. But that just relentless work ethic meant actually in the end you do well at sales. I'm a good listener. I'm good at learning from other people, not from school books. So I listen to how to do it. And if you follow a process, you do well. And that feeling of success, I loved it. And it took me a few years, but I started to become very, very successful at sales, doing a really good job for my customers. And your bit was, and I just sort of kept on and on and on. And the more I did well, the more I enjoyed it. And the praise and recognition, I think that just kept on going.
Yeah, it was interesting. The other night I was on with a group of college seniors, and we were having a little mentoring session, and we talked about the whole concept of emulation. You don't have to know how to do something. You don't have to be great at doing something. Can you find somebody or some way that it's getting done really well? And
Correct.
can you just copy it?
Yes.
Can you just copy it? And one kid joked and said, "Hey, I went on LinkedIn and I looked at my best, out of all my friends, I looked at my friend who had the best job. I looked at their LinkedIn and I'm like, yeah, I do that. Yeah, I do that. Yeah, I do that. I do that." And he goes, I was getting ready to just kind of like start fresh. So I like how you just talked about, learning from others and copying others, because like success is right in front of us a lot of times, and we just have to grab it.
Yep.
And one thing I like talking about is playing offense, going out and kind of just grabbing it.
So that then took me on that bit about looking at people who've done it well. It was one of the philosophies of my first boss, just sort of copy. And that was where I was a very successful salesman. Probably the person I idolized at that point in my life was Michael Dell. And I'd seen what he'd done with Dell computers, and there was a whole lot of companies launching direct consumer at that time. And that's how I started Harvey's Lansdowne. Effectively was just seeing other people operate and thinking I could do the same, and I can build a big business like not quite as big as Dell, but I built Britain's biggest pensions company. In the US, you call them 401ks, but I took 25% market share by building Britain's biggest pensions company.
Yeah. So tell us, how did you build that?
Probably, how do I build it? From humble beginnings. I started on my own and just gradually built it. I had two guys that backed me. I was in the same office, but they just sort of said, crack on with it and have a go. And started from me listening to the customer probably throughout my life. And even with this business I'm running now, it's all about understanding the customer really well, being innovative, giving the customer what they want. So developing products that they really, really want. And if you can build a better product than everyone else and all your competitors, ultimately the customers will come in their masses. And I think operational efficiency, my dyslexia has given me the ability to see sort of into the future, but also solutions. So I'm really good at building very slick systems. So we built the slickest system from marketing and from administration. So we could find customers cheaper than our competitors. We have better products than our competitors. And we could do the administration cheaper than our competitors. And then you make a lot of money. And I IPO'd it when I was 36, 10 years of building. And we IPO'd for about $1 billion. I think we had $1 billion on the first day, the valuation.
Wow. So now, one thing that you talk about is your zero distraction mindset.
Yeah.
So, and I see a smile come to your face just when I mention it. So talk to me about what is that? How did you come up with it? How do you deploy it? Have you trained others in it, or just talk to me a little bit about that?
Simply my thing. And again, maybe I learned a lot from my first boss. One of his philosophies was, rather than doing three things medium, do one thing really well. My son's doing one thing, driving a car really, really well. And therefore, my belief is that if you really want to be successful and number one on the planet at what you choose to do, you need that focus. I think it came from me saying that I don't look at any other investment pitches. I'm not particularly interested. I spend a lot of time. We want to have the world's best in what I'm doing now, the world's best electric motors, the best batteries, the best indicators, the best riding experience. We want the best marketing. All those things take up a lot of intellectual resource. And we want to be number one in each one of those things, or the most important ones. So I just said, look, I'm not interested in reading newspapers about random things. I concentrate on my one domain. And that means last week I was in Japan, meeting customers in Japan. The week before that I was in Taiwan. The week before that I was in China. The week before that I was in Australia. And it's dedicating myself to making sure we win. What I don't want to be is mediocre and be almost a winner in the field. I think often the winner takes a lot or all. So therefore, being globally dominant and globally successful is important.
So you just started to talk about Pure Electric,
Yeah.
an e-scooter company that you founded
Yes.
and that you've launched. So just talk to me about like the micro mobility market. Like what's it like, and what made you choose to pursue this?
After, it's actually the day that Lando signed his contract. It actually reminded me of like when I'd IPO'd the previous business. I went through a period of being bored. It's the truth. And I really then got into looking after Lando. So when the day that Lando signed his contract with McLaren, I said, what am I going to do next for the rest of my life? I'm 48 years old. I've got a lot of time to go. So I really wanted to see, if I am amazing at solving problems, then what problem could I solve? And feeling that pollution is a global problem. So I spent 1 year, and I have a really clear rule. I spent 1 year looking at problems and solutions like an investor would. What are the big problems and what is generating our pollution? And that came up with urban transport. And was there a solution? And not only was the one problem with pollution, and a lot of people, I'll be honest, don't care about the pollution. A lot of people do, but we've seen as more of a backlash. And if you can have and solve multiple problems for people, then people buy your product for multiple reasons. So we get a lot of people buying our products because they want to get across the city faster, or they have nowhere to park a car, or they've got nowhere to store a car, or the bicycle's not the solution. So I was looking for a product that effectively was solving multiple problems, but the byproduct is it was decarbonizing the planet. It had to be global. It had to be where it was a new technology. In the same way I've been really at the front of direct consumer switch, I had to be at the change of a big trend, and effectively electrification's coming, and there'll be bumps along the road, but fundamentally, whether it's in an iPad, whether it's a mobile phone, whether it's in a Tesla, the development for the electric motors and the batteries is being done by somebody else, and I'm just piggyback on the development work they're doing. So lithium ions here is fundamentally changing the way that people get around and we can develop transport. So it was a sector that's growing. I also wanted something where there was going to be government tailwinds, and whether it's in New York, I've been to New York this year, I've been to Tokyo this year, I've been to Melbourne, they're all putting in cycle lanes. And so they're all realizing that we need to increase the ease at which people can get around cities. So I also wanted to invest my time and my life into something where the governments were backing it and we got major tailwinds.
So one thing I read is that you want Pure Electric scooters to be kind of the Apple of scooters.
Yeah.
Kind of that there's a unique brand, there's a unique experience with them. And I think that's the thing that Apple's done well. Like, the first week of September every year, Apple announces their new iPhone. People are lining up at stores. And I think if you ask people, what's the new iPhone do? I think a lot of them would say, I have no idea. They just want it.
Yeah.
So they've done a great job from a brand and a client experience to become a magnet where people want it. So walk me through, just talk to me about how you're kind of using that model or trying to replicate that model or emulate that model, as we talked about earlier, with Pure Electric and the scooters that you're building.
I think there's a lot of bits to it that actually, so we want to be a premium brand, and it's a decision. I don't want to be the person that sells the cheapest scooters. At the moment, it's estimated roughly 1 in 4 people, so 25% of people on the planet own an iPhone. So I want the same penetration on this planet with my products. So going back to and I don't want to be, maybe another cheap company's got 25%. I want to be I call it mass premium. So we're designing products which are beautiful, that people want and are proud of. So I think we copy Apple in that bit. We want people and are building a brand. We're the only scooter company building a brand that's actually desirable and people are proud to have it. You could say the same happens with luxury clothing. People aren't buying it just because it's technically better. It's because they aspire and they enjoy and they like those brands. Sure. So we're doing that, and that's what I'd love one day, is that people queue up and just go, I want the product because it's a Pure. And I think so we're working on that. But I think you're a bit about now that Apple's at that point, and I agree with you. Why do you want it? Because it's an Apple. 10 years ago, they were the innovators. And that's where we are today. So we're leading by the best innovation, understanding our customers and giving them beautiful products that they really want. And maybe Apple's lost their way a little bit recently and people they've got momentum. But 10, 15 years ago, they were the people that brought out the iPad. They brought out the iPhone. They were leading the world. And that's where we are, is innovating faster than our competitors, giving our customers better products than anyone else.
Yeah, it is interesting. I think that's something that a lot of people have watched over the last 5 years is, would Apple be able to keep up with their innovation cycle, or would they kind of plateau with the products they had, but continue to build those great products? And I think we would say that's kind of what they've done. The iPhone continues to be great. iPods continue to be great. AirPods, iPads, MacBook. I got a MacBook Air here. I love it. It works. It's seamless. My contacts, they go across. I take a picture on my phone. It's on my computer. It's on my iPad. So they do an exceptional job of that. But to your point, they haven't necessarily had a very large innovation come out as of recent. So, okay. So now I want to jump to a completely different topic, and you can probably guess where I'm going to go. So, when I first met you, we had a conversation about Lando.
Yeah.
And actually, when I first talked to you, truth be told, you and I were talking about Pure Electric, and we had a 1-hour Zoom schedule called, and we spent 45 minutes talking about raising kids.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, in 44 minutes, we're about raising them with values and kindness and raising them to be good human beings. And by the way, we then spent the next 15 minutes talking about Pure Electric. So we met our objective that day. But talk to me about just raising kids today, and then we'll get into raising a superstar and raising somebody who right now is the best on the planet, sitting P1 in the Drivers' Championship. But just talk to me first, just about raising kids.
I think, and I've made some money in my life, that the thing that I could give my kids is good values, and the thing that I see across all human beings is having good values. So I think that was the first and most important thing to me as a father, was to ensure that all of my children, not just Lando, have got really good values. And that you can do whether you've got money or you don't have money, that you can be respectful. And then after that, probably hard work. I think, I like people that work hard. And so I've given all my kids a good hard work ethic. And I think you're saying about raising people and good advice is there's almost something inherent in all parents who've done well, is to make their kids' life easy for them. But if you do that, maybe they don't have that work ethic that you had as a parent. And I think it's important. And I think that sort of, maybe because I didn't do very well at school, I think people can be successful if they've got good values, a good work ethic. I guess probably the other thing is ambition. And I think that I sort of prioritize them in that way. And I would say that if somebody was ambitious but had bad values, I don't think they're a particularly nice person. I wouldn't want to be around them. And if you've got good values, then whoever you are, whether you're a farmer or whether you decide you're a hairdresser or whatever you want to do in life, you can be a really good human being. Then I like people who work hard and have that work ethics. And finally, I like also ambition, and why not try and do something amazing? And whether that's you want to be the world's best violinist or whether you want to be the best. My daughter's, her ambition is to get an Olympic gold medal in horse riding. My other son is a business guy and is growing his business around the planet. And my other son is a Formula One driver. My youngest daughter's still just going to university, so we'll see where she ends up. But they've all got those values.
Yeah. Now, isn't your other son, doesn't he make simulators?
Yeah.
But I think I read somewhere where they're like some of the world's best simulators.
They are. They're one of my things, I'm comfortable, though you can look for great things in other people. You look at how they train fighter pilots, and simulators is a big thing. So I worked a lot while Lando was really young at simulation and how you can help that. And what I really wanted was the idea is that probably to pursue any sport, when you look at golf or you look at lots of different sports, they practice more than you do in motor racing. So how can you practice every day? And the answer is by having a simulator at home. So I looked at that, and then we ended up pioneering, and this is the business my son now has, is we ended up building the world's best home sim. And it doesn't mean the flashiest, and he'll do really fancy things, but effectively the closest possible to a race car without wasting money on things you don't need. So when you turn up a track, you can be quick.
Just the other day, I got asked a question, I did a little talk on it on, hey, if you had to start all over, what would you start with? And it was interesting. The first thing I said is work ethic. I said, because you just can't, if you're starting over, like nothing can replace work ethic. If you're willing to work hard, you can get places. And the second thing I talked about is, was values. And I think you just talked about values, in work ethic. One thing I did mention was in this talk, I talked to, the third thing was saving money so that you have the opportunity to pursue, ready for this, your ambitions. And I think you talked about ambitions. So it's pretty interesting how, going back to our first conversation, even going into this conversation, how pretty aligned on that. So now talk to me, Lando, since he was young and karting, and, thanks to Netflix and Drive to Survive, a lot of our audience knows more about Lando than they probably did just a couple of years ago. And he's really strived to be, number one in the drivers' championship. And he sits there now. So what is it like after 4 races in the season, seeing him there at the end of week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4? How does that feel for you? And just what are your thoughts?
I think very proud is the truth. And we discussed this probably 10 years ago. So Lando had been 15, about becoming a world champion. And that was always the aim. And you have to do it one race at a time. And just because he's leading it now doesn't mean he's going to win it this year. But you're doing everything possible to do it. So very proud, and sometimes sort of pinch myself that he's ranked number 1 in the world at this point, which is great. And I think his dedication, his hard work ethic, and relentlessness of pursuing his goal is paying off. So proud is that the word that comes to mind. Is very proud of what he's done, what he's achieved.
Excellent. Now, talk to me about, the commitment anybody who pursues being world class. You talked about work ethic, but just, give our audience, like, what type of commitment does somebody have to make if they truly, your daughter wants to win Olympic gold in equestrian. Lando wants to be number 1 in the world. How do you see it through an adult looking at one of your children? How do you see the commitment that needs to be made to truly be number 1?
I think most people underestimate how hard it is. And that was, I did a lot of angel investing, and I actually saw, if I came away with one sort of thing I learned from doing 30 angel investments, is that all of those 30 people didn't understand how difficult it would be and how many hours it would require to become world class. And very few of them, actually none of them did become world class. Some of them did okay, but it's that level of dedication. So I think whatever I've seen, and that's why I went back into running a business myself, because there are times where you need to work Saturday, Sunday, repeatedly, month after month, and your business needs that. And that's the same for him. We did, and as a parent, I did 350 weekends away. And when you just stop and think of that, it's almost equivalent to being away permanently for 7 years.
Yeah.
And I know Lewis Hamilton's father, I know Max Verstappen's father, and I know what they've been through. And all of us have been through roughly the same, or Alex Albon, the different racing drivers on the grid. I know the parents, and I know what they went through. And you see that a lot of parents don't, and that they enjoy their holidays and they want to take time off, and so it doesn't matter if we miss some races, but every time that accumulates. But I think as well, just sort of the advice is that it's how, my advice, and this is whatever sport someone's going into, so I don't think it's just motorsport, is you need to enjoy it. I love what I do as a business. I do this because I love it. I don't need to financially do it. It's because I really want to do it and I love it. And the same for him is he loved go-karting and he loved racing, and that's actually what he's loved more than anything else. So at times it's not been dedication, but actually making, like having a simulator at home. And he would spend up to 12 hours a day, and he would go out and sit there and he'd take his breakfast bowl out with him and start racing. and just, you could race people and it became fun. So it was a fun way to learn his profession. So I think doing that, and I also, when they're really young, making it pleasant. You want to make it difficult, but not too difficult that they hate it. And therefore, in the UK, it's very cold in the winter. A lot of people stop practicing because it's too cold. So I spend time trying to understand what gloves would help. And it might seem simple, but when you're trying to hold, and you're a small kid trying to hold a steering wheel and you're traveling along, you get a lot of wind chill. Removing some of that pain where it becomes so unpleasant you don't want to do it meant he could practice when others don't. But it was relentless. And I just think that probably most people can't perceive how much effort goes into it. And it's a lot more than people think. So a lot of people start on the journey practicing 1 or 2 days a week, and they end up going, hey, it's 5 days a week for 5 years. And therefore, actually, it's very hard to have any normal job. And you see that nearly every parent has actually had to give up their job or go self-employed or do something or work some way that they've been able to run their own business or run their earn income or get sponsorship for their son or daughter.
So, one question I had for you is, you have raised Lando with values. I've had a chance to meet him a few times. He's just a really kind person.
Yeah.
I had my team over at the MTC, and he gave everybody time. He talked to him. How does Lando balance that competitiveness and kindness? Or how does somebody who wants to be best in the world, or anybody, balance that, competitiveness to be number one, box everybody out, sharp elbows, but, also, live life in a way that you're proud of?
I think there's a few things. That one is, when you're trying to be the world's fastest driver, the number of hours you spend in the gym getting fit, and if you want to be the fittest in the world as well, and you want to have done the most prep for any session, or you understand things better, that isn't whether you're horrible or nice or kind or not. That's just a decision that you're going to turn up to the race fitter than everyone else. You've done more preparation, and he's also an exceptionally talented person. And we could see that when any sport, he has phenomenal, absolutely unbelievable hand-eye coordination. And that ability to process visually what's going on, and then taking that on board and making decisions with his limbs, his arms or his feet, is very, very high. And then you couple that with great practice and such dedication. You could see that as he's going through the ranks. He just spent longer there practicing and learning than other kids. And that's what I think over all of it overlays. The racing is like any sport. You're going to, you do a good job on your podcast, people listen to you and not someone else. There's always sort of putting someone out of business, or everyone that buys my product's not buying someone else's. And if they do a bad job, they'll go out of business. So I think he's just very determined, and he race. And I think it's then racing within the rules, and that's it. He just has to be able to drive faster and smarter than other people. And that's the same with the team, with the tactics and how they do it, and tire strategies and developing the car. There's a lot behind the scenes that I think the public don't see, with continuing to develop the car and working and gelling together as a team, and camaraderie. And when the team are working late nights relentlessly, it's being there with them, building team spirit. It's not just what you're doing on the track. You win probably off the track.
Off the track is arguably as important sometimes as on the track, just in, as you say, just, a pit stop being 0.2 seconds, having the right strategy and the right tires. I mean, we've seen that in our favor, and we've seen that sometimes not in our favor. Correct. And in weather, weather kicks in, who does well in rain and who doesn't, type of thing. And such. And, we can go back to Miami last year on his first win and say, when does the safety car come out and when doesn't the safety car come out? So
I think, though, as long as you relentlessly do a good job and you consistently do a good job, you win at some point. And he will get some wins in the season where things have gone in his favor, and he'll lose some because they've gone against him. And He's had other races where safety cars get called at a bad time for him, and he's leading, and that destroys his lead. But I think it's about that consistently doing a good job, and the same with the team. And that's ultimately how you win championships. It's not just being the fastest driver. It's about being the fastest team and everything coming together and having the right strategy. And it's everything together about being a team you win.
Well, that was like in Bahrain this year, and he finished P3, and he just had a tough start, and that his wheels just tipped outside the box.
Yeah,
he got a 5-second penalty, and I think a lot of people that would have ruined their day. And I don't know, maybe that would have hurt Lando 3 years ago much more than it hurt him today.
yeah.
Because there's growth as an athlete, but you saw this determination that he was just going to overcome that. And I'll also note, there was like the fourth or fifth, I watched it on TV, and they, you hear from the drivers, and I'm not going to use names, but the first 3 drivers had, kind of called in with complaints. And then it was Andreas saying, hey, we've got a 5-second penalty.
Yeah.
And he and Lando were, no problem, we're going to overcome it.
Yeah.
So it's a very different mindset. A few people saying, oh, my tires aren't right, my setup's not right, why'd we do this? And here's the guy who actually got hurt, got a penalty.
I think that's the same, though, probably, and there is a lot of similarities to business. You can get, a company can have problems with the weather if you're selling barbecues, or last year we had the wettest ever season on all history, and this year's drier, and that changes as well. There's things outside your control, but as long as on average you do a better job than other people, you'll flourish. And some of those things, and that's, you're going to make mistakes, whether it's in business or in sport or anything. And it's about, again, having a group of people that understand that and who are resilient and just keep on consistently doing a good job.
So kind of wrapping up, one question I had for you is, you've been a very, very successful entrepreneur, a very successful investor, a very successful dad, an entrepreneur. I mean, you've been very successful at pretty much everything you've touched. But when all is said and done, what would you like your legacy to be?
So I think I've been successful. I have a different opinion. I was about 30 years old. I'm over 50 now. That Lando's number 1 in the world, which I think is, being very successful. And I'm saying, and also he's got good values and those things. In business, I built the biggest pensions company in my country. But when I compare myself to what's going on in Silicon Valley or different things, it's not very successful. And it's a bit like saying you're being the most successful person in your village. So I don't see building the biggest pensions company. And maybe I think at that point, I've grown the biggest business for anyone in my country under 40. But I think you should be looking at a world scale opposed to a country scale. So my vision and what I am doing is building a company that will be the same scale and size like Apple, and it's not, you don't deliver that in 3 weeks or 3 months or even 3 years. There's going to be a gradual shift in every city in the world to using more and more small zero emission devices for people to get around. We're leading the world on innovation, and believe at some point that most individuals will have, in the same way today people travel on a bus or travel on a bicycle or travel in a car, there'll be a position where we're nearly all forced to use a smaller device to get around cities. And we want to be the number 1 company, a bit like Apple is the number 1 for mobile phones. We want to be the number 1 in that sector. So the end game is to have 25% of the global population riding our products. And that'll probably take us another 10 to 20 years. But that's the sort of time scale. If you went back to the beginning of mobile phones, it took time for mass adoption. So that's what I want to do. I'd love to IPO the business, but I'd love to stay in here till I'm 80. I'm 50 now. So you think in 30 years' time, in the same way the boss of IKEA or different people have done over a long period of time. Warren Buffett has, and I love what I do. And this is that point about really enjoying what you do. So that's it. That's what I want to be remembered for.
I'm going to take that out away and make a soundbite: relentless pursuit of excellence.
Yeah.
It sounds like, just this relentlessness that you that was instilled on you in a farm growing up as a kid, that you then raised your family on a farm, so that they had that same work ethic in the pursuit of excellence, where it's truly the best on the planet. And recognizing that that's not done overnight. And I think that's the other message I took away is, I think sometimes people think of things as, overnight successes, and talk to anyone who's ever been called an overnight success, and, have coffee with them, and they'll tell you, yeah, there was 18 years before that overnight success. There was 5 failures before that overnight success. So I'm going to take away the relentless pursuit of excellence for you, Adam. So, hey, thanks for being on the Fearless Experience with me today.
Thank you.
Everyone, this is Adam Norris, successful entrepreneur, CEO, founder of Pure Electric. So go out to pureelectric.com. And if you are looking to get around faster, cheaper, and be socially conscious, he's got some of the absolute coolest e-scooters out there. I know I have one myself and am using it. He's also been a wonderful entrepreneur across multiple businesses, startups. And I think maybe what is most special about Adam, he's a great human being who has passed that legacy on to all of his kids, and they are going to pass it on to others in the world. So thanks for joining me today, Adam.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
This has been the Fearless Experience with Brendan P. Keegan. If you want to learn to live and lead fearlessly, go to brendanpkeegan.com.